What's up, true believers? Welcome to Greg's Comic Book Club, issue number 7. I'm Greg, and this is Irene Koh.
Hi.
Hello, Irene. How are you?
Good, thanks. How are you?
I'm
Thanks
good.
for having me.
No, thank you. You're coming in here, supporting us, taking care of it. Of course, you, comic book artist, Irene Koh. That's how people would know you, of course.
Yes.
You're very famous on that level. It's true. We'll get to it in a second. If you didn't know, if you're just tuning in, if you've never watched a Greg's Comic Book Club before, it's very simple. Hi, I'm Greg. That's Irene, and we're going to talk about comics today. Kevin, are you over there on the hot mic? Well, he's got to hit a bunch of buttons. And he doesn't know which buttons to hit.
Well, people switch the buttons. They switch the buttons. Yeah, Mike's hot. Mike's hot.
Cool. Okay. Kevin's on the show too. Is basically you're a big part of the show, Kev. I don't want to undersell you. Of course, each and every month on Patreon.com/kindafunny for just $1. The first Wednesday of the month, a new episode of Greg's Comic Book Club goes live. It is a Patreon exclusive show, meaning we will never publish it over on YouTube for all to see. It's just for you, the people who support us and love comic books on Patreon.com/kindafunny. Remember, if you want to, what's that, Kevin? You got a question?
I thought you said maybe for Comic Book Day we might put.
Oh, well, for Comic Book Day, I share a link, but I don't publish it for everybody.
I'm just saying never is.
Well, I mean, okay, so yes, but I mean, I'm never going to publish it straight up on YouTube. I might share the unlisted link, Kev, you know what I mean? And say, hey, come look at this cool show we did.
All right. Fair enough.
Remember, if you want to be part of the show with your reviews, questions, and comments, you can go to patreon.com/kindafunny. Go to the $15 level. You can ask whatever you want. Just like so many of you did. It means a lot. Thank you so much for your support. Many new faces today saying they joined up for it. And if you're one of the people at the dollar level saying $15 seems like a lot to ask a question on a show I kind of enjoy, remember, you get all the other perks included. You're automatically entered to win everything you give away on Twitch. You get to watch the shows as we record them live. You get early access to the shows, including the pre and post shows on Fridays. It's a good deal. There's a bunch of other stuff too I'm forgetting. I don't know. You run a Patreon, you know? There's too many things happening over there.
My Patreon is so freeform.
Irene?
Yes.
The Legend of Korra.
Yes.
Turf Wars, Part 3, comes out August 22nd.
It does.
Right around the corner.
So soon.
I want to get to that. But for the start, here's what I know about Irene Koh. Everyone I meet in the comics world, or just in the weird nerdy video game world, is like, Irene's amazing. You need to do it.
Really?
When people walk me around shops, they're always like, oh, you know Irene Koh? In the beginning, I was like, no, I don't. And then I was like, oh, yeah, no, I know. And now I know it. And like it was that. And they're like, oh, you should read this. I'm like, I'm not that big of like anime, Korra person. Like, well, don't even that. Go to her website. Read her webcomics. I was like, okay, I go there. You got little comics up there. Talk to me about, I guess right now, how would you describe what you do? What when people ask you, hey, what do you do? You're at a party. There's some cool music playing, right? You got a red Solo cup. Somebody walks up, they go, hey, what do you do? What do you say?
I draw comics.
Okay, perfect.
Yeah.
And then what comics would people know you for?
Probably mostly Korra, Legend of Korra Turf Wars. Let's see. I also worked on Secret Origin Batgirl. Yeah. I did a Casey and April special run of Turtles.
Right. And those are the big ones.
Yeah, I think
those are the
big
heavy
ones.
hitters.
Yeah.
So then let's go backwards. Do you grow up drawing like we all did, and then one day you're like, I want to do comics, or was it not like that?
Yeah, so I've been drawing for as long as I can remember. I grew up in Tokyo.
Oh wow, that's awesome.
Yeah, I was born in Korea, moved to Tokyo, and so like anime and manga were part of my upbringing.
Sure, of course.
And I remember just like copying drawings from Sailor Moon and all the time. And I pretty much never stopped drawing since then. I had entertained several different career paths, mostly music.
Okay.
Also forensic science.
Oh, okay.
Forensic psychology, actually,
Okay.
among other things. But and then I was like, oh, it turns out I'm like okay at this drawing thing, so I'll just do that.
Okay.
So I ended up doing that.
So how long do you stay in Japan?
5 years.
Okay. And
First
then
5 years of my life.
The parents drag you over here to the United States?
They did.
Okay. Where do you settle down?
First we moved to Pennsylvania, spent a year there.
Oh, of course, where everybody goes. Straight from Japan to Pennsylvania.
Tokyo
of course, why wouldn't
to
you?
Pennsylvania, the boonies.
Yeah.
And then to another boonies in Connecticut. So mostly Connecticut.
Okay,
And then I went
cool.
to school in Rhode Island.
So is that the jump where you start, when you're getting ready to go to school, you're like, I want to make art my full-time career?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah. I did a pre-college program. I went to the Rhode Island School of Design, which is a very fancy, 4-year art institute. And it was very expensive, but
as all colleges are, right?
but
now you're making those big comic book bucks, though. You're fine.
It's like super intense, and so like you need to not just love making art, but like be serious about choosing that as your career
Sure.
and be ready to do that like all the time. So
were you at all worried? Like, I mean, if it's intense, is there a moment where you're like, I don't know if I really want this that badly?
actually, no, never.
that's
Yeah,
awesome.
it was like
That's
pretty
awesome.
certain. So,
Yeah.
yeah.
And so what, you graduate then, and is it right into the world of comic books? Like, how do you get your start? Where does that begin?
I actually worked in games first, so like I've been a huge lifelong game nerd.
Sure.
And originally I wanted to work in animation,
Sure.
and then I went to art school and saw my animation friends dying. So I was like, okay, maybe not. And then I wanted to do concept art for video games. So
Oh.
I worked on some indie games. I did some internships at like NCSoft,
Heard of them.
in Korea, and a few other places. But
What was the
yeah,
biggest game you worked on?
Probably Guild Wars 2.
Oh, yes. Okay. Yeah.
Had to make them more palatable for the Asian audience, which just meant making them cuter and making
I
their
was like, what
boobs
does
a
that
little
even
bigger.
mean? Yeah.
Basically.
Yeah.
So yeah, and then I had been drawing my own comics for forever
Yeah.
and just posting them all online. And I just assumed that like mainstream comics industry in the U.S. would never hire me because
Sure.
my art was very anime.
Yeah.
But Cameron Stewart had been following my artwork for a while. He's the writer on Batgirl.
Of course, yeah.
Or was.
Yeah, he's part of
Now
that
Motor
Motor
Crush.
Crush team with Babs.
Yeah, exactly.
Their gang, they just move traveling gang of people.
Yeah. And he just reached out and he's like, do you want to draw the Origins issue of Batgirl? And then that just opened all the doors.
Really?
Yeah. So
Was it an easy, like you're drawing comics on your own, is it an easy switch to jumping in there? Because I know what Babs was on last month and she talked about, her start was that
Right.
she would draw and Cameron would send back notes like this, them talking and doing stuff's great. Action needs to look more like this. We
Yeah,
need to change
yeah.
this. Yeah.
I had a good amount of formal training in comics making and also just having read comics for a long time. So I felt like it wasn't that difficult of a jump in, but I wasn't very good at it until maybe the second book of Korra. So everyone has been very generous and forgiving to me. So
Is that how fast it moved? That it was, you say all the doors open for after Batgirl, like you did that and then did Korra come along pretty much that quickly?
Korra came along maybe 2 years after that. So
Okay.
it was Batgirl, and then Marvel contacted me to do a short for Witch Hunter Angela.
Okay.
That Kieran Gillen wrote. It was really fun. What else? It was just a bunch of small things here and there,
Yeah.
and just picking up work where I could, doing cover art. And then probably the next biggest thing I got was the Casey and April special.
Yeah.
Just one arc of road tripping.
Yeah.
No turtles in it, actually. So
Deceptive name.
I look at that work now, I'm like, yikes. But it taught me a lot.
I was going to say that's how it all starts though, right? You have to go through and do that.
And I'd been yelling at the internet forever about like, if there's ever a Korra comic, like
Yeah.
I'm
Let me be
perfect
part of
for
that.
it. I'm perfect for it. And I just figured they would never do it because it's been like 4 years since the show ended.
Yeah.
And then a friend contacted me and she was like, hey, they asked me to draw the Korra comic, but I don't want to do it. Would you want to do it? So that was it.
And there you go.
There you go.
Did you have to sell them on it, or was your art style just such a great lineup for it?
I did one test page, and I already actually knew Mike through a mutual friend of ours who's a writer. So they were familiar with my work. And they kicked my ass into shape. I got so much better after doing Korra.
So I feel like, we're in similar fields in terms of putting out products, right?
Sure.
And the thing I always talk about with my peers and the people who just talk about video games or host or do anything is imposter syndrome, right?
Mm-hmm.
Of like, man, I can't believe I've duped people this long to get here. Do you feel that, or did you feel that when you're like taking on something like Backer, when you've been sitting on the sidelines forever going like, I can draw Korra, and like, all right, go draw Korra.
I have mastered fake it till you make it.
Okay.
Like, even if I'm feeling nervousness, I'm so gung-ho about everything that I just kind of dive headfirst into most things. So
Okay.
I live my life with a certain reckless confidence.
Yeah.
And it was only like, I was just talking to my partner about this maybe like a month ago. I finally feel like I'm not faking it anymore.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I know my stuff and I'm pretty good. And so, yeah.
How many years would you say that's been then as full-time comic book artist?
It's been 2.5 years.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So
Is it terrifying? Like I only know, like it's one of those things people always ask me for career advice. I'm like, Well, I worked at a newspaper for a year and a half, then at IGN for 8 years, and I started this. Like, I don't know if I'm the guy who can tell you like this. When I meet people in my world, in my video game freelance, I'm like, I don't know how you do it. Of like worrying not paycheck to paycheck, but job to job, and having to pitch and having to do this. Is it just life?
It was definitely stressful. I would not wish this life on anyone, honestly. When I get young people asking me like, how do I break into comics? Like, I'm like, don't. just don't.
Go get an accounting degree.
You can like make your own comics at home without having to deal with all the BS that's part of the industry. And the bad pay. So things like Patreon and webcomics make tons of money now. So that's usually the advice I give people.
So now you use your own Patreon. You have patreon.com/co.
Yeah.
Tell me about what you're doing over there.
Ooh, it's pretty freeform, but mostly it's for my not safe for work stuff.
Oh.
Hell yeah. Kevin, subscribe for us right now.
Yeah.
Huh?
We lost camera 2.
Camera 2's down. Is that the camera we're even using though?
Main camera.
Oh, it's the main camera?
Yes,
So you I'm pausing. We're paused. Don't worry about it. Did we just happen?
Yeah.
Perfect.
I said up.
Well, I know, but you said up as I asked you a question. I asked you a question, so that's fine.
Oh, you asked me a question? What's the question?
I didn't. I
Camera 2's down?
no. I said subscribe us to this not for safe for work stuff. But now you don't worry about
I'm
that.
in.
Cool.
There we go.
You're in? Okay. Should I continue or not? Should you want to keep paused?
Give me 2 seconds.
All right, cool. You're doing great. This is great. Is she loud enough? Mike's good placement?
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah,
Okay,
I brought
cool.
her levels up a little bit.
Perfect.
Cool.
I want you to take your time. I want you.
You're good. I was just making it easy for Cool Greg to be like, hey, that's where the edit is. Because
When it goes dark, we still have the audio, right?
Yeah.
So I can just pick up with tell me more about this not safe for work stuff. Tell me more about this not safe for work stuff, huh?
So
Kevin's giving an applause back there.
yeah, boy. I am unabashedly in love with drawing erotica.
Hell yes. All right.
And I used to post my porn on Tumblr, but I realized that I could put it behind a paywall and
Sure.
people would pay for it.
Sure.
So yeah, and it turns out people seem to love it. Like I used to do like mini comics I'd post on there monthly, or
Yeah.
like Twine games, stuff like that. And it turns out that people just want
They
the
just want
sexy
porn.
stuff.
Yeah. And that's what you want to make.
Yeah, that's mostly it. Or like previews of stuff I'm working on, sneak peeks, stuff like that.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
So this is an interesting one because I've talked to a lot of artists, right? I don't get to podcast with them as much. That's why we started the comic club, so I could talk to more comics and stuff. Do you think that all artists just like to draw people fucking? Because it feels like there's a lot of that. It's that thing where we're at that tipping point where it's mainstream now,
Yeah,
right?
yeah, yeah.
And I should have looked this up. Or maybe you know. Do you know Swing? It was a trade that came out. It wasn't ever singles, I don't think.
Okay.
It was from Image. This is a long story to get nowhere, but stick with me. I found out about it because the husband of the artist tweeted about it, and I was already following him because he was kind of putting out sexy art of superheroes.
Oh, okay,
and I had found out about him because on the DC subreddit, people were like, "Hey, the guy who's like drawing Justice League is putting out like photos or like images of people fucking," and I was like, "Well, yeah, I want to see Black Canary and Green Arrow getting it on." You know what I mean? And so like, but I was like, man, that seems like if in the 90s we had Twitter, that would have been a bigger deal.
Yeah,
that like,
yeah,
hey,
yeah.
guess what? You know, they're drawing. Dan Jurgens is doing all this stuff and like we're writing all this other porn.
The secret is, well, now it's not a secret anymore. I used to draw Korra porn.
Yes.
Before I got hired, and so I had to hide all that once I got hired. But like I've seen the creators like those posts, so I'm like, cool. Drawing the actual fucking is super hard though. It's like super unsexy.
Are you getting
to
super
draw.
graphic with it?
Well, it's just
How much do I got to give you? $1? What do I got to see? How do I got to see this porn?
it's like anatomically really difficult to
Sure.
draw fucking. My favorite part is like right before they're
Like,
gonna get busy.
When they're
you
like
know?
taking their clothes off, like
yeah.
this is happening.
Sexy is what you don't see.
Oh, I gotta say I'm 18 to view your site. Hold on, I'm doing that. It's going. How much? Yeah, $2 a month, and I get all my love and thanks. Wow, with the porn. Okay, hold on. Access 18. Oh, here we go. Is it R18 porn?
Yeah. Oh man, now I feel pressured to post more porn. I haven't posted some in a little while, so.
I like how I think I usually subscribe to everything from my personal Patreon, and like the one real kind of funny sub now is gonna be Irene for porn. I'll get on this in a second. I don't think anything's linked to make it actually happen. That's awesome.
Yeah.
Do you think is that the thing, or I guess this is painting with too broad a brush, but I was gonna say, do you think that's the thing with artists that they know the human body so well and want to draw things that are true to an extent that's why so many people are drawn, or at least able to talk about it now, that are drawn to the more sexy times?
I think people are just horny for comic characters.
That's true. That's very true. Kevin, I'm not going to deny it.
Yeah, I don't know.
Okay. You don't need a solid answer. I was just wondering. You do you. I'm not even. Yeah, I don't even know. Is Jim Lee?
I'm
Is Jim
definitely
Lee
horny for
drawing
my
this
cartoon
stuff?
characters.
I don't know. I don't know what Jim Lee's doing over there, doing all that. And then you also have a Twitch, I see.
I do.
Are you playing games, or are you streaming yourself when you draw?
Most people tune in to watch me draw.
Yeah.
Because apparently that's interesting, I guess.
Yeah.
And they'll stick around for my gaming too.
Okay.
Mostly Overwatch these days.
Sure. Who do you main?
Anna.
Okay.
Anna and Moira. I'm a support main.
There you go. See, once I ask the question, once somebody says Overwatch and I say, "Who do you main?" We've then exhausted my knowledge of Overwatch. I'm like,
You're like, yes, that
Do you
one.
struggle to protect the payload? Like, I know that's a big problem for Overwatch players. That's a big thing. Andy's gonna bust through the wall in a second and tell me all about the hamster wrecking ball guy.
Oh, he's great.
Oh yeah, you like him?
I love him.
So, are you playing on PC?
Yeah.
I figured.
Yeah.
Dork.
I got like a really intense rig set
Yeah.
up and everything.
Yeah,
I'm a
yeah.
huge nerd.
Well, you know about trophies on PlayStation though, right? Like you can get a platinum trophy. You should probably be playing there. That's cool.
I have every system.
Yeah.
My mom gave me my old. She was moving out of our old house and she was like, "Hey, I still have your Super Famicom. Do you want this?" And I was like, "Yes,
Yes, I do.
Yes, I do."
Yeah.
And so we like went through playing like old trash games.
Oh, that's always
like the
fun.
Sailor Moon fighting game,
Yeah,
which
yeah,
is
yeah.
just absolutely broken.
I figured, yeah. So then, for you, you talked about the bad pay for comic books.
Yeah.
Obviously Patreon, obviously Twitch, all these different ways to monetize. Are you at a place, and this isn't me going into your financials, obviously, but are you a place where you are still so hungry you have to chase everything? Or are you like, I got a good medium income, I'm fine here, and this is how it's going to go?
I am thankfully at a place where I can be picky about the jobs
Awesome.
I take. I'm actually doing some work for Bungie right now.
Oh, no shit.
That I can't talk
That's
about,
awesome.
but-
It's Destiny. It's got to be Destiny. She knows Destiny stuff, Kevin. Don't let her out.
I never thought I'd be ever working for Bungie. I'm like a huge Bungie fan because I love Halo.
Yeah.
So I finally have like real big girl money now, which is nice.
Okay.
But we also bought a house, so goodbye.
That's the end of that. That's how that ends. Yeah, exactly.
But yeah, it took 2 years to get to that point of steadiness.
Do you see yourself like sticking with comics the whole way, or is it like, would you rather get back to concept art? Would you rather go back, or not go back, but would you rather branch off and follow the video game route after a while?
I've been thinking about my career a lot now that I'm done with Korra. Korra took like a year and a half of my life.
Oh, is the third the last one?
Yeah, last one.
Oh, wow, okay.
Yep.
I'm turning on the fan, but I'm listening.
Sure. Sorry, what were we talking about? My ADHD is like
No,
going.
well, I'm one of those guys too, that's popping around a lot, and I'm drinking coffee.
My meds haven't kicked in yet.
I was saying, what's your trajectory
career
here?
stuff, yeah. So I was thinking about that a lot recently.
It's not even moving.
God damn.
There you go.
Got it.
Just ask me to do it. That's what I'm here
Then you're gonna do the scuttle thing over here. And you do the thing where you kind of think you're scratched down. It looks like a humpback whale going through.
I think at my core, I'm not like the best at my core.
See what I did? Yeah.
I'm not the best draftsman. I'm like okay, but I love storytelling.
Yeah.
So any medium where I can like flex storytelling muscles, that'd be awesome. And wherever that leads me. So, whether it's video games or comics, I'm also working on a graphic novel pitch right now.
Nice.
So I'll probably get that out of the way first and see how I feel after that.
Have you already started drawing it? Is this too? I'm not trying to get a scoop. I'm just talking to
It's
you.
still in pitch phase.
Okay.
Yeah,
Well,
so-
that's the thing is I don't know how that works. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
like
yeah.
we'll get to it eventually.
Yeah,
of
yeah.
Me being a struggling below amateur comic writer and like trying to learn what that process is like, let alone what it's like to pitch your own graphic novel
Yeah.
and have a chance of it being made. So yeah. Okay. As we said, August 22nd, part 3, Legend of Korra Turf Wars, your final one. You wrap up the Korra saga. You kill all the characters.
All dead.
Yeah, and then it's just the erotica on
Yes.
your Patreon.
Yeah.
of
It
all
actually
them.
ends in an orgy.
Yeah.
Nickelodeon, I'm sorry.
Hate to break it to you this way. Irene, on Greg's Comic Book Club, we usually begin the show, which we're going to start right now, is what's the best thing you read this month? What's when you think of all the comics you've been reading, what do you
Best
think
thing I
stands
read
out?
this month?
Yeah. You can think.
What's the best
You can
thing?
sip your coffee and think about it.
Let me sip
While you
and
do that, I'll
think.
thank you everybody for your support on patreon.com/kindafunny, making this show happen. You know, it's a dream come true for me. We have a lot of comics to talk about. Thank you for all your support. Like I said, so many of you coming to talk on the participation thread. Shout out to you.
Actually, you know what the best thing I read yet is? It's not even out yet.
Ooh, look at this. Inside Comic Secrets.
Jem Bartel's Blackbird,
Okay.
which is coming out in October, written by Sam Humphries, is so good. It's so fun. It's
Give me
like
the elevator pitch.
it's like a trashy CW show
Yep.
about magic cabals in LA.
Okay.
Yeah.
That sounds awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah, I wanted to toss it up because I'm not familiar with it. BleedingCool.com. Harry Potter meets Riverdale.
yeah. That's a perfect example.
Yeah. Okay. So are we? Oh no, I'm reading about it. Image Expo 2018. What about it? Is it? Are they magicians? Oh my God! Look at the art. It does look like that. Looks like a CW show for sure.
Jen's colors are crazy, and like the comics are that bright and awesome. So
described as Harry Potter meets Riverdale. I'm reading from BleedingCool.com, by the way. It is set in LA with an attempt to capture the smog/soft life aesthetics. Nina has a hard life, but Nina is kept going by her core belief that magic is real, and Blackbird is about the day she is proven right. Huh.
I think actually Blackbird is the cover to the Image Plus magazine right now.
Oh, really?
Today.
Okay.
Yeah. So
That sounds awesome.
Yeah.
What about it is keeping you engaged? Is it just the trashy CW-ness of it?
I think it's mostly Jen's art actually. There's a lot of like little homages in there to like Sailor Moon or like old comics and anime and stuff like that. So it connects on sort of multiple levels. But it's just like it's good candy fun.
Yeah, that's what comics need to be, right? I feel like
sometimes I want the deep stuff.
Exactly. Yeah, you can go back and forth with it though, right? And explore that spectrum. I think that's why it works so well. For me, best thing I read this month, DC Beach Blanket Bad Guys Summer Special.
That sounds amazing.
It sounds goofy as hell, right?
Perfect.
Exactly. And I actually walked into it wrong, or I guess backwards is a better way to put it, because I wake up and I'm addicted to my phone, so I'm immediately to Reddit and Twitter and all these different things. And last Wednesday, woke up and somebody had put up on the DC thing like, this guy gets Superman, and it was a Superman page of Superman talking to a normal guy on a rooftop. And then, being like, hey man, Superman being like, I don't have all the answers and I don't want to be the guy who does. I just wake up every day and ask like, what can I do to help? And then the guy offers him his burrito and Superman's like, yeah, I would like that. And they talk about the restaurant he got it from, and then he flies away. And I'm like, this year began with me giving the Superman pitch because I'm like, no one's getting Superman right. He's just a dude. Blah, blah, blah.
I have a whole spiel on Superman too.
Ooh, can I hear it?
I mean, he's like the Jewish immigrant story,
Yes,
right?
yes.
I mean, we can go deeper later.
Okay, good. Well,
sorry, I interrupted you.
No, you're great. And my whole pitch was that of just like, he's a dude from the middle of the country, and he's not an alien. He is an alien, obviously, but he doesn't think of himself as Kryptonian. He thinks of himself as Kansas. He's from Kansas, and so this page was up, just this page out of context, and didn't say where it was from on the Reddit, and I thought it was something old I had missed, and I was like, oh man, and I linked it out on my Twitter, and I was just like, this gets it, you know what I mean, of like, this is what I've always been going for, and I said this in January, oh man, nobody's getting it. The story I'm reading from is Help from the Beach Blanket Bad Guys. It's written by Jeff Loveness and arts by David Williams. Yeah, and so I think Bendis is doing a great job. We'll talk about that in a bit. And then there was this, and there's so many people now getting Superman the way I want that I feel like, damn. Like I in January I had like something, I had a fire, and now everybody's like nailing it. I'm so happy to read comics. It's just exactly what I want. Anyways, though, the DC Beach Blanket Bad Guys Summer Special is just an anthology of short little stories, all about villains. And so this Superman one, Help, Jeff Loveness writer, is basically, it starts with Lex in his solar powered car or whatever, and it's broken down, and he's on the phone and he's like, mercy, fire these people, and a dude pulls over to help him and won't take no for an answer, and like is doing it, and like he gets down to jack up the car, and he's got a Superman tattoo, and so Lex is like, I gotta ask why. And the guy's like, well, what do you mean? He's like, the tattoo. Like, oh, I like Superman. He's a cool guy. What's not to like? And you get this brilliant spread of like Lex laying in about the diatribe of him making humanity useless and da-da-da-da.
Wait, this is amazing.
Yeah, exactly. And it's just a few pages.
Yeah.
And then the guy with the tattoo's like, oh, well, he's just a normal guy to me. And he's the guy who gave him the burrito. And that's the story. This is where we caught up to it, right? And it was like, wow, I read this and I'm like, and there's like, there's a bunch of, it's all these different villains in there. There's Joker and this, and the different writers are tackling different things. And I finished that one and I was like, holy shit, like a great Superman look, a great look at Lex, a great look at how humanity would deal with this in the way I want them to, but also just done in so many, just a few pages.
Yeah.
Here it is. Here's a story.
Vignettes are the best.
You don't need this continuity. You don't need any of this. It's great. And I was like, man, this book is worth the price of admission for this one alone. Then though, I get to the one that in the book is, in my opinion, the best thing I read this month.
Okay.
And it's Close Shave by Paul Dini, who of course I think needs no introduction with all of his chops and animated series and all these different things he's worked on and done a whole bunch of different stuff. And then art's by John Paul Leon, probably actually. John Paul Leon. I'm terrible with names.
It's okay.
As you noticed when I was like, Koh, right?
A lot of people.
Could it be easier?
I think the H throws people off.
Yeah. Well, it's just like, I don't, when you're a stupid idiot from the middle of the country, anything even remotely,
cool.
like, I don't know, man. I don't know. I'm out of here. Close Shave is Mr. Freeze story.
Oh, nice. Okay.
And again, it's so brilliantly done it's Mr. Freeze on a sweltering hot summer day in Gotham trying out his Mr. Freeze walking robot so he can walk around again. It's gigantic. And he's not even out to really do any evil stuff. He's just doing a test run and make sure it works. He's got his crew in there or whatever. And they're going, and then he looks down, he's like, what is this? And down on the ground, right, there's two ice cream trucks. One shaved ice and one, I think the other one's shaved ice too, or it's Mr. Softy, it's ice cream. And they're in an argument about whose corner it is. And the Mr. Softy truck has this generic ice cream head on top of it.
Yeah.
And then the shaved ice truck has Mr. Freeze's head on top of it. And Mr. Freeze looks down. He's like, "What?" And they tractor beam that shaved ice truck up there. It's a mom and her daughter, and Mr. Freeze is being Mr. Freeze to them about them using his likeness, and it's them being or the mom first off trying to get the daughter to stand down, but it's they're not making any money. It used to be a Mr. Softy truck, but they wanted $5,000 for the license, so they did this. They're just trying to make it work. They're just trying to get by. And Mr. Freeze listens to the whole story, and they offer him one of their shaved ices or whatever, and he has it, and it's delicious. And he's like, all right. He puts them back down, and then from the robot grabs the other truck, and he's like, this corner, theirs. And he's like, all right, cool. And then he screws with the thing, and then it's him running away and Batman chasing. But it's it sounds like super comedy, but it's not. It's comedy done in the same realm of what a Mr. Freeze would be and stuff.
Yeah.
And it's this weird. I tried to tweet at everybody whose stuff I like just so they get positive reinforcement. But I tweeted at Paul Dini and deleted it because it didn't sound right, and it won't sound right here either. I got choked up reading it. Because the way the mother describes their business struggle and the daughter is trying to interject and be a smartass and defend her mom, because her mom's immediately don't kill us.
Yeah,
you know what
yeah.
I mean? This isn't worth it. We were just trying to get some kind of brand recognition, and to see Mr. Freeze give an inch, it was awesome. And a weird thing. And again, I'm always the guy on this show talking about how continuity can be great, but continuity, we are a slave to it too many times. And to get us this thing where it is just here's a whole bunch of talented writers and artists and put them together. Obviously, like I said, Paul Dini, you should all know the millions of amazing things he's written. But Jeff Loveness, I did not know. I tweeted out the image. Some guy had, hey, Jeff, they love your work. And then he had favored it. So I saw it in my verified mentions. And from what I can gather, he's done a few writing gigs and stuff like that, but he's more in the TV world of doing some of the comedy shows. I think Onion, he's done Onion stuff, and then one of the talk shows, I want to say, I forget which one. But it was to see in the same way I feel you and Babs are success stories of Cam on both occasions coming to you guys and being hey, we like your art and it's different. Come do this. You're seeing that now of, hey, you're Mike Drucker, one of our friends, just wrote a Spider-Man story.
Yeah.
Hey, you're different. Come over here and try writing this. And it doesn't need to be that you're going to do 100 issues of something. It needs to jump in and do a quick twist on this and do a quick take on it and stuff.
I mean, with DC hiring all those YA writers and women and stuff to come in and do that stuff, super interesting.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, they're in that's what I like is that kind of shake up and that kind of get in there and give somebody an entry, because people are always asking me what can I read? I don't want to. How do I know where to jump in any comic? So to be able to give you an anthology, it's just you know who Mr. Freeze is. You know he's a bad guy. You know who Lex is. You know he's a bad guy. Here's a bunch of different stories from their perspective, and they have a Giganta one in there and stuff that I don't think reaches these heights, but again is oh, neat. She goes back to her hometown, and she's not a character I know that much of a backstory on. It's cool to see her interact and, get vengeance and stuff like that.
I mean, my favorite DC superhero is kind of C tier, maybe B tier.
Okay, who you got?
It's Blue Beetle.
Oh, yeah. Well, now you're talking about Ted Kord?
Ted Kord.
Ted Kord, of course. Yeah. I just love
him and Booster Gold.
Yeah. Ted's
So good.
dorky ass suit. Like they never
love
really
it.
update,
I
right?
love it.
Yeah,
Are
and
these
don't get
a
me
little
wrong,
thick?
Jaime Riaz or whatever. He's great as Blue Beetle now, but yeah, Ted Kord was amazing and awesome.
So good.
Yeah, and then Booster, of course.
So
just
I
being
love like
Booster.
the small short things, because honestly, getting into American Cape Comics was super intimidating at first. 'Cause
Sure.
I think I started with Blackest Night.
Oh wow!
And
okay.
I was like, I don't know what's happening.
Hey,
but
here are all
sure,
these dead
yeah.
heroes you've never heard of. All right.
What's a Lazarus Pit?
Yeah, yeah,
So that was my introduction to U.S. comics, and
Did you stick with it? Because I know
I
that
did actually. I did. I got almost at the end of Brightest Day, and then I sort of stopped.
Sure.
Single issue market is kind of hard for me to keep up with.
Yeah.
So.
No, I hear you. Trades are so much easier. Like,
Yeah.
here's a completed story,
Yeah.
and here's where we're going with this. Yeah.
It's just nice to finally see some like change in method.
Oh yeah.
These days, you know,
Yeah.
the comics industry hasn't really changed.
To toss into some of my stuff from my pull list, right? That I've pulled out, and a lot of you were talking about too. I think immediately the first thing I want to talk about is Batman. Tom King, who I swear to God we should just rename the show Tom King's Amazing, because it always gets here and I just rant about Batman and Mr. Miracle and stuff. But until he stops knocking it out of the park every month, you know.
And he has a very apt name.
Oh yeah, totally. The King of Comics, Tom King. So Batman 50 was the wedding of Bruce and Selena,
Right.
Catwoman, Batman. Did you keep up or know anything about this coming in?
Only what Twitter shows me these days.
So yeah, like again, if this is your first comic book club, heads up, we spoil everything. It's you should read it by now, or at least who cares? It's 20 pages.
It's been like a few weeks, right?
And the art's way more important. You should be watching that. So Batman 50 is promoted as, they're going to get married. This is their wedding. The day or two beforehand, New York Times article comes out, and it's all over Twitter. It spoils the wedding of what happened. So I totally avoid it.
Gotcha.
Refuse to do it. And this is a weird one because it's been out a while. And we're going to talk about 51, which I think is even better issue.
Okay.
But 50, they don't get married.
Right.
At the very
she
end.
leaves him at the altar, right?
Yeah, she leaves
Yep.
Bruce at the altar
Yeah,
and
yeah.
stuff. Yeah, boo, Kevin. Yeah, that's okay. You're allowed to
but
boo.
it's kind of in character.
Yeah, it is. I felt like hold on, right here. Where is it? Yeah, Kayla, of course, frequent contributor, of course, on patreon.com/kindoffunny writes, okay, let's talk about this issue. Sigh. Listen, I'm not going to lie. I am disappointed the wedding did not happen. The moment with Alfred, I immediately choked up. We'll get back to that. Here's where I think she gets into something. I really wanted a shake up, just a break from the status quo. And I get that this is a 100-issue run and that there's more to tell about the story and Bruce and Selena, but damn, it just takes the air out of the whole thing in my opinion. But I'm someone who's just bouncing in and out for Batman because of this wedding. I'm somebody who's been there the whole time.
Yeah.
And I was super stoked that they were going to get married.
Yeah,
and
yeah,
I think what Tom King's done with all these issues leading up to them, of them being a couple, the dynamics and the conversations and, Lois and Clark and all these different things they've done with, and Joker has been phenomenal. And so, yeah, I was in Montreal because we recorded Bab's episode a long time ago, and this dropped, and I had a few, and I read it totally, and I was like, and it starts going, I'm like, oh fuck, oh fuck, and sure enough, they don't get married, and like Bruce jumps off the roof, and then is off to go be Batman, and like Bane's somehow tied up, and then it's just like tied up in this whole thing,
Yeah,
he's not
right,
literally
right.
tied up, and it was just like, fuck, like I was deflated too, but I don't think in the way that I was disappointed in the comic as much as I was like hurt for them.
Yeah,
You know what I mean?
I just want Bruce to be happy,
Which
and
he
Selena
never
to be
can, and
happy.
I know, yeah. Now, Kayla brings up the Alfred moment in this. There's a beautiful moment in this book, Irene, where Alfred, Bruce is getting ready and Alfred walks in. He's like, so who do you want to be the witness? Is it going to be Master Dick? Is it going to be Master Clark or whatever? And Batman's like, no, I'd really like it to be you. Like, we've been there since the beginning and everything else, yada, yada. And Bruce says all this information and sits there, and then it's 3 panels of Alfred, like, looking away, looking back at him, eyes
my
wide, and then
God.
coming in and embracing him. And it was like, oh my God, I was teared up too.
That's so good. Alfred's my favorite Batman character.
Of course, yeah. So you're getting those kind of moments out of it. And
That's so good.
I didn't feel robbed by the end of it. I wanted it to stay. The fact that they were launching Catwoman #1 on the same day,
Yeah.
you're like, oh, it doesn't look like it's going to go well. And like the cover was like, will I or won't I find it? Okay, well, whatever. That said, of like the heartbreaker, like being bittersweet, if it's going to set up stories like Batman 51, I'm totally fine, because Batman 51 I think is one of the best comics I've ever read.
Damn,
And it had me tweet of like, I think, and I know plenty of writers that I love and adore, and I'm like, I think this is like just another example that Tom King is on a different level than everybody else, because the issue starts, and what it is that Bruce Wayne has jury duty, and like he won't get out of it because he can't get out of it. So then there's these shots of him in the hotel room, like it's the trial of Mr. Freeze for this murder, right? And so they're cutting back and forth to Batman holding him over the line, like, over the edge of a building, like confess, say you did it, blah blah blah. And like we're cutting back and forth, and it's Bruce in the hotel room when he's sequestered in, and rather than escape, he just shuts the blinds when he sees the bat signal. And then it's like, you go over there and Batman lands and Commissioner Gordon's like, you're not Batman, you're the other one. And he's like, well, I'm here. So like, what's going on? And it's Dick Grayson, and that's revealed.
Okay,
it's like,
all right.
It's great, but then it's also, it's just a great thing of all together. Like, well, Bruce has jury duty. What does that mean for Batman? It's Bruce wrestling still with the grief of being left at the altar. Mm-hmm. And like, there's this, he's and like this ties into the other, him being left at the altar. And then the anger and pain of being left at the altar, it's, he almost beats Mr. Freeze to death trying to get this confession.
Damn.
And so the prosecutor, when he's presenting his evidence, is like, the confession was coerced. Mm-hmm. He didn't do this, blah, blah. And they put Mr. Freeze in the stand, and he's like, yeah, you said it, and when you got dropped off, you said I do, and he's like, I've fought Batman a million times, and like if I didn't say that, he would have killed me. Damn. And it's this thing, and then like Bruce is hearing all this information, like wrestling with all stuff. He leaves the jury room at one point, or it's lunch, and everybody's just bantering around. He's just like, I have to go to the restroom, and they're like, he hasn't said a word to anybody, and he just gets up and leaves, and he goes in there and rips a sink off the wall and like spikes, maybe a urinal off the wall and spikes it against something. It's like, he's still this ball of rage after the Selina stuff's broken him so much, which is a throwback to the end of issue 50 when Bane's like, we've broken him, like we've broken the bat, and not physically but mentally, right? Mm-hmm. And so it's this awesome ball of like, this, how does Bruce wrestle with being Batman? The Catwoman stuff's fucked him up. He knows he crossed the line with Freeze. Yeah. Like he didn't do the right research to get to it. It's fucking fantastic. And
it's nice to see Batman fuck up and have feelings.
Yeah, like, exactly, right? Good. And that's been the longest thing, right? Of him just not fucking up. Jose. He wrote in, he's one of the new folks over on patreon.com/kindoffunny, and said, Batman 50, I was disappointed that the wedding ended where it did, but man, is Batman taking this breakup tough. Beating Mr. Freeze like that, wow. I'm excited to see where this goes, and I just love seeing Mr. Freeze as it's awesome. So yeah, it's really well done. Then I've been talking for a long time leading into it. Amazing Spider-Man 1 and 2 have come out while we were gone. This is Nick Spencer, and then Ryan Otley is the artist. Ryan Otley, of course,
I love his
one of my, if not my favorite artist working right now, because Invincible is so great.
I was obsessed with Invincible.
God, it's so good. Have you read looked at any of this?
No, I haven't.
This is, it's kind of a cheat because he's drawing Spider-Man and doing an amazing job, but his Peter looks so much like Mark and his Mary Jane looks so much like Eve that it's like, what a better way to be like, I miss Invincible. Oh, here it's kind of back. They're all doing it, right? Issues 1 and 2 are out there. For me, I'm enjoying it a lot, but I'm one of those like lapsed Spider-Man fans where I know Dan Slott did an amazing run, and I popped in here or there for certain things, but I was not up on everything. And when I did try to pop in, and it was like Parker Industries where he was like Iron Man. Right. I was like, that's a bit too much for me. So to jump in here and have it reset a whole bunch of stuff where it is Peter, splitting a 3-bedroom apartment with 2 other roommates, one of who's a supervillain that he knows and is trying to get to the bottom of, right? That's cool.
Excellent.
They do a great thing of, I don't know if you followed the whole Superior Spider-Man thing, where Doc Ock had, he was dying and he put his consciousness into Peter's body and supplanted Peter's body, and he was Spider-Man for a while.
Oh my gosh.
They do a great pull from that of while Doc Ock was in Peter's body, he went back to school and he found out he didn't finish his graduate's degree and got the degree. And so this one opens with, Peter's working the Bugle, but he's the science editor. And there's this thing of like, they've introduced this new way to detect plagiarism. They totally find out that Peter Parker plagiarized Doc Ock's work for this thing. And he's like, it's more complicated than that, but his degree gets pulled and he has to go back to school now. And the Lizard's teaching him, and like sometimes in Lizard, it's like,
I love
they're
that.
doing a bunch of really cool stuff, but I think Mario puts it out here in a way that it frames it in a different way. Mario reviewed it on patreon.com/kindoffunny and said, off to a bad start in my opinion. Felt like Spencer was trying to cater to both old and new fans, and it resulted in a weird tone that felt part 80s and part modern. Too much dialogue, although that might have been because it was the first issue and starting to pick up new readers. Art was disappointing too, which I cannot agree with. The action bits looked pretty good, but the pages where it was just talking heads looked like amateur art from a deviant art artist. Ouch. Mario taking it to Ryan Otley. I loved what it was, and especially in issue 1 where there's like an alien invasion kind of thing that eventually becomes Mysterio, but you get Old Man Logan and Captain America and Iron Man, and like all the Avengers are there, the Defenders are there, so you got to see Otley draw a whole bunch of different stuff.
Cool.
I'm into it. I like it, but it is, they're calling it back to basics, and it is back to basics. Of course, I'm a sucker because they finally are fucking undoing all this brand new day shit. MJ and Peter together. Awesome.
Okay.
Let's go. It's right where I'd want to start and like get going. So I'm enjoying it, but if you're not Mario, you can go to hell. No. And then, and this is where we're going to start going faster. The Superman stuff, obviously. Man of Steel 6 came out while we were gone, and finally answering what the hell was going on, where Lois and John were, which then led to Superman 1 and Action Comics 1001. It's mixed reviews that have been going on here. Mario, again, says for Supes number 1 that he felt, John Jones, the Martian Manhunter, felt out of character with the speech he was giving, because he showed up trying to convince Clark that he needed to be like the leader of the world.
Okay.
And like it was like it was more than just be an example. It was more like actually take control, which I agree was a weird thing to hear. But he's saying it might be a setup for now. It seemed out of place. I agree that right now I felt it was out of place. But overall, I still like Bendis is trying to get his footing. Agree to an extent. I think I loved Man of Steel all 6 issues. I know the last issue number 6 was very polarizing in terms of what it is. So the idea is that there's a lot of DC shit to try to catch you up on, which I won't even try. But Jor-El didn't die. Jor-El was back. He came back as a bad guy for a little bit, kind of. But then they kind of went their separate ways. But then he shows back up in Man of Steel, and he's basically like, I want to take your son, Jonathan, with me to explore the universe and learn a whole bunch of stuff that you can't teach him here on Earth. He's Kryptonian. He should know more about the universe. And Clark being like, no fucking way. Lois being like, no fucking way. And Jonathan being like, I want to. And so then them coming, issue 6 is the reveal that Lois is like, all right, fine, but I'm coming with you. Like, I'm going with you or whatever. And so this is where, in a weird thing, but whatever, Superman gives his costume no trunks to Lois, which is why he has the old costume now with trunks.
Okay.
And like, not to keep you safe or whatever, but like kind of keep you safe. And that, he has this communicator that if he needs to talk to him, he can talk to him. And so, okay, go on, be safe. Let me know if anything happens. And she's like, Smallville, you can trust me. Like, I know what I'm doing. And he's like, I know, but I still worry and yada, yada. The new villain they introduced, that is the reason Krypton actually blew up and came back and killed all of Kandor. He came back and took the Kandor city and spiked it on the ground and killed everybody. He also, when he wrecked the Fortress of Solitude, wrecked the communicator. So Superman now has no way to talk to Lois and Jonathan or communicate that he can't talk to them.
Yikes.
So he's torn up about that. Are they okay? They think I'm neglecting him. It's an interesting thing to wrestle with, and then awesome to see how it's all evolving. I agree that I felt Man of Steel 6 I loved. I know a lot of people didn't. I liked Man of Steel in general. Superman 1 I did feel like, all right, where are we going? Action, I thought we did get a little bit more of what's going on. And I love the idea that action's going to be more about Clark Kent, whereas Superman's going to be more about Superman. So exciting stuff there. More quick hits. Last month we talked about I don't read enough Marvel stuff. I listened to your recommendations, jumped in on Venom 1 through 3. I have 4, haven't read it. I'm enjoying it. It's one of those comics though where the art's cool. I like that they're trying to give the symbiote a backstory and all this stuff. It's just not clicking yet for me. It's a lot of space. Not a big space fan with the made up aliens and the made up symbiotes and stuff, but I like the Vietnam thing. I'm gonna keep going with it. Tony Stark, Iron Man number 1, drop 2. That's a Dan Slott comic I picked up. I thought I'm loving it. It's a lot of fun. It's more fun than I thought it would be. It's what you're talking about of like, it's popcorn or whatever. And like, but it's weird to, have Tony Stark back because he's been gone for a while, but then pick up a solo thing and read it for the first time in a long time for me and be like, wow, I am so reading this as Robert Downey Jr. Like it is written like the way he delivers MCU dialogue, which is great. It's a nice continuation of that. And then, did you see this news? I meant to put the link in here. Are you a Saga fan at all?
Yes.
And they're taking like a year off?
Yeah, good for them. Good for them.
Yeah, right? Jericho wrote in and said about the Saga news.
You set new standards, Fiona and Brian.
It's sad to not read Saga for such a long time, but I think these two more than deserve a break from it. It's by far one of my favorite series ever written, and I have only respect and love for Fiona Staples and Brian K. Vaughan. Give these guys a break. Let them come back with full batteries and crush it once again. So yeah, I meant to put the link in. I forgot to. When is it? It's I screwed myself on this one because I didn't have my thing. They're taking a year off.
Yeah.
Period. Full stop. Crazy. Great. Crazy. I don't know. You're in the comics industry. I feel like Saga is one of those comics that has such a hardcore following that everybody month after month says it's so great. I love it. Don't get me wrong.
Yeah.
But to say while you're hot, you're gonna take that much time off. You say it's a good thing?
So I haven't caught up yet, but I heard this morning from Jen Bartel that like it ends on a crazy cliffhanger.
Right. Yeah.
And then they're like, peace out for a year.
Yeah.
As an artist though, I'm like, You should do that. So when I finished Korra, I worked on Korra nonstop for a year and a half. Burnout is real.
Oh, sure.
I finished drawing Korra in February, and I'm only just feeling like I'm ready to draw comics again.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
So, like, I can't imagine working on Saga for that long and not having... I mean, it's built up, so they deserve the year off.
So this is from IGN.com. Alex Giliadov says, Saga's creators Brian K. Vaughan and Fiona Staples have announced they will be taking a break from the comic for an undetermined period, which will last for at least a year. Quote, after 54 issues and over 1,200 consecutive pages of sequential storytelling together, Fiona and I have decided to take an extended break before we eventually reunite with Saga 55. And unlike the usual 3 months of vacationanza between arcs, we plan to pause publication of the series for at least the next year. Vaughn went on to explain the decision wasn't easy to make, and the long break would allow him and Staples to creatively recharge and spend more time with their families.
Yeah.
That's the thing, and we'll get to when we start talking about me trying to write this comic, but even to put aside the time to write comics, put aside the hours it takes to draw what's written and stuff.
Right.
I can only imagine, how exhausting it is. And that's when it gets really nuts when you think about somebody like Ryan Otley, who did what, Kevin, how Invincible was what, 170 something, 150 something, 122?
142, I want to say.
142
That
issues
dude
of
is a beast.
right? Yeah. And keep going. Not to mention how detailed the panels were,
Yeah,
and how much stuff
exactly.
Kirkman said to
Oh
be
my
in the
God.
background to tease stuff. I can only imagine. Yeah, it's
also like physically taxing.
oh sure.
And people just like ruin themselves just drawing monthlies.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, I'm happy they're taking the time off if they need the time off, but it is like, oh man. But then it's also, I'm the same guy that's like, month to month I was having trouble keeping up with, wait, where was Saga?
Yeah,
like
yeah.
I got in late, so I read like the first 2 or 3 trades together.
yeah, I've only read the trades.
Right.
Yeah.
So it's like that, I feel like, is a great example or a great reason for me to go back now and read 1 through 54 and be all caught up when it comes back or whenever I want to get into it.
Yeah. Actually, yeah, that's a good plan.
Irene, it's time for required reading.
Okay.
This is where every time, if you ever watched Greg's Comic Book Club, the guest comes on, they pick a book for us all to read. One book to rule them all. Last month, of course, Babs Tarr was on here. She picked Last Man, the Stranger by Bastien Vives, Michael Solanaville, and Balak. It is it's a French manga.
Yes.
If you read it?
I am so stoked to talk about this because Last Man is like my favorite thing ever. Ever. So
give them the synopsis then for the first volume, The Stranger. Do you need me to do it? Because I know if you've read a lot, it's hard to get back to.
Yeah, I'm like trying to, I don't know how to sum it up. I guess
There's a town doing a fighting competition, a tournament.
It's clearly like a fantasy world where these like kids are taught how to fight, and it's like this fighting tournament, and it's very typical like shonen manga like fighter tournament thing. But this guy shows up named Richard
The
Aldana,
Stranger.
and he's clearly not from their world. He's like a dude from our world, and it's you. They don't go deep on it at first, but you realize the more you go in that he has no idea what's going on, and he's like, I'm just here to fight.
Right.
And then shenanigans.
So yeah, he teams up with this little boy Adrian, who's not good at fighting, who wasn't, his partner got sick after eating bad seafood.
Right.
And so like he goes in there, and Richard just cleans everybody's clock and has these amazing moments where like the one dude's powering up to use his thing, and Richard just socks him in the face and knocks his teeth out and gets a infraction because you can't, when somebody's trying to summon, you can't hit him and stuff like that. But yeah. It was interesting. We, of course, asked everybody who's reading the stuff along with us to put up your reviews on patreon.com/kindoffunny. And a lot of people, or at least a few, seem to have missed that, like, the things that Richard isn't from another town. And I don't know. He's from our world is what I took away, too, because he's, like, back in a flash. And people are like, what does that mean? And he's asking more about cigarettes and doing all this different stuff. And clearly, like, doesn't know any of the rules. And he's like, I'm in a place with magic. Like, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, Are you far enough ahead that you know his backstory and how he got there and all that stuff?
Yeah, I'm all caught up. And I have not actually finished watching the cartoon, but I need to do that.
Okay.
Because that's more backstory.
So yeah, like I said, French manga. Of course, Adam Matthew Inc., another, I think one of the new people, said, honestly, who knew there was French manga?
Really?
right off the bat, the gray scale and quick, fluid line work was a turnoff.
Boo.
But sticking with the book, I realized there was a sort of elegance to the artwork and storytelling.
Yes.
Vives and Salavis, I'm just going to power through those names and act like I got them right.
Salavi.
Shush your face. Drawing captures Adrian's mother, Marianne, beautifully. The simplicity of the line work is really wonderful. Last Man took my low expectations and gave me a compelling story with interesting characters inside a world similar to a grounded version of Avatar and Dragon Ball. I think I wouldn't be it wasn't as much as a turnoff or like as negative he was, but he's echoing a lot of stuff where this is not a book I would normally read, right? Like even when Babs said it and I looked on the show at the artwork, I was like, I don't know. And so starting up the issue or the book and reading the first few pages, it was like, oh, is this gonna be really Dragon Ball-y in ancient times? And then I found it. I don't even remember. Somewhere in the teens.
Wait, so you only read the first?
Yeah,
book.
I've only read The Stranger.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. How many books are there?
In English, I think there's only 4 out right now.
Okay.
4 or 5,
Okay.
or maybe, 5, and then 6 is in French. But you have to keep reading because it's so good.
Well, that's what I found interesting about it. Is like, when I got to the teens or the 20s, it was all of a sudden where I was like, okay, I'm feeling it. And then like, okay, and I like that they kept the cast of characters small, right?
Yeah.
Like, Marianne, the Master, Richard,
Right.
and it was like, I'm bouncing around, I'm getting it. I'm seeing like the, will they, won't they relationship between the mom and the stranger and all this stuff. And it was like, huh, okay. And so by the end, when you get to the cliffhanger ending, it was like, fuck, this doesn't wrap up here. And it was like, it went so fast. It's a quick read.
Yeah.
It goes, it's telling a story. Like, I enjoyed it. And it's now that you say I have to, it was a hem and haw. Like, should I get number 2 or should I just look ahead?
It's super worth it.
Yeah?
Get all of them
Okay.
and just read them all at once. It
Okay.
goes by super fast.
Yeah, like I liked it more than I thought I was. And when it got picked, I was like, I don't know, Babs.
They reward you for sticking to it too.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay.
It's incredible.
Jericho chimes in and says, it's super cute, adorable, charming, and funny. I was smiling almost the whole time I was reading it. The art is very minimalistic and clean, but also very unique, which I like a lot. When I first had the book in my hands and skimmed through it, I immediately thought it's looking a lot like a manga. But not only the art, but the form and the thickness of the book and the feel of the paper. I don't know how, but the fact of the village is, I don't know how. But the fact that this village, the tournament is happening in, is completely shut off from the world that the stranger is coming from. It's weird. I like that. I understand where you're coming from, Jericho. It is weird, but I like that was the intrigue that kept me going. All right, it's not just Avatar. It's not just Dragon Ball. Like, why is this guy here, and what are his goals for being here? And he makes it sound like he goes to worlds all the time fighting. I'm like, what are you up to? I don't know. Some people don't understand how the stranger speaks. They definitely don't understand his fighting style, and that's what I want to know more about. And maybe the reason why I want to continue reading this. That's my reasoning for sure. Kayla liked it a lot too. I'm a Dragon Ball fan, and some of the most entertaining bits of Dragon Ball are the tournament, so I was pleasantly surprised that Last Man is mostly focused on that. When Richard is facing against one of the Soares brothers, he begins to do his summon, and Richard straight up punches him out. I was cackling. Yeah, I think if you're a fan and you've seen these tropes before, it's all over the place. Peter feels like the art was hit or miss, but although he loves the scent of weight and motion in the art, overall he's feeling lukewarm on Last Man. He might pick up Volume 2 on a whim one day and see where it leads, but he's not dying to read on. He missed it. You sell him on it. Get Peter on board.
I feel like honestly, Last Man art-wise is a comic for artists.
Oh, really?
It's so these
What
guys.
does that mean? Yeah.
So these guys worked in animation beforehand, and like to me, it's pretty clear that they started this comic together sort of just for fun.
Yeah.
And so they kept it loose and fast, but like to me, I see complete mastery and draftsmanship when they do something like this because somehow they communicate that Marianne is beautiful by just drawing like
Super
3
simple,
lines. Yeah.
right?
And I'm like, how
yeah.
did they do that? But if you can't sort of, it's like knowing the rules to break them, right?
Yeah.
So if you don't know all the technique and whatever, then you go into this being like, oh, they can't draw or something, but that's obviously not the case.
Yeah. No, as I was plowing through it, that was what caught me too. Is I did think, oh man, this is a really simple art.
yeah.
But then like by the time he's like, your mom's a bombshell or a knockout or whatever he says, I was like, I did know that.
Yeah.
And I did,
yeah.
and it's, and I'm not trying to throw anybody on the bus here. Like what I was talking about with like Walking Dead. Where when Walking Dead, the first few issues went from that really detailed art style, jumped to like the more simplistic black and white stuff. Well, it's always been black and white, but the more simplistic art it is now.
Yeah.
I've always struggled since then to be like, wait, who is that? That I the first time around with all the details, I was able to keep it up. That wasn't an issue here.
Yeah.
Because again, they kept the cast small. That's where I think Walking Dead loses me. Is all out war. There's like 90 people. I'm like, I don't know which white guy in a hat you are. Like, I don't know. Are you the one who's banging Maggie? I'm not sure what's going on. So I mean, it worked for me overall. Luca's gonna keep going with the series. Can't wait to see where it goes. But yeah, Luca, I really ended up enjoying the story, and the characters were incredibly well defined, and I grew attached to them pretty much immediately. The plot didn't progress too much in this volume, but it created a great setup, and I'm super intrigued to find out who Richard is and where he's from. Me too, Luca.
Please read the rest.
I do. I think I'm gonna get back to it. I'm gonna keep going on it.
It's there's one moment, and I'm not gonna tell you what it is.
Sure.
But you
Is it in
will
book
know when you get to it. I think it's in book 4.
Okay.
But you will know when you hit it because it is so damn good.
Okay. Irene.
Yes.
Any closing thoughts on Last Man? I mean, you
Last
seem like
Man?
you've said you like it. We get that.
I love it.
So damn good.
I guess. I guess your audience is mostly for American comics because French manga. So like, Franco-Belgian comics and Japanese comics go back a long way together. Like Mobius was like really good friends with Miyazaki, and they've always when you go to like
Mobius, the Spider-Man villain.
yeah, that one.
Thank you. Sure. Okay.
Yeah. Like Angoulême, the art festival in France for comic artists and stuff like that is like Japanese artists and French artists mostly.
Gotcha.
So they always like steal from each other and like, riff off each other, and it's so good. But yeah, this is definitely explicitly a love song to manga. Even though, like someone mentioned, like the format is definitely the same too. So
Yeah.
that's why it's so good.
All right. We're gonna get.
I want more like cultural crossbreeding in comics.
I think you're getting it, right? I feel like we're at that point,
yeah, I
right?
think
Where I
so.
mean, even like, I'm not a manga reader, right? But like this was normal because I've already read stuff like, at the old days of IGN when the comics were sitting around like Purry, right?
Yeah.
And I was like, oh yeah, you want to talk about like perverted erotic stuff? I'm like, yeah, all right, cool. Guys trapped in an all-girls school, tell me all about it, right? But then like you see the crossover now. Like I remember for me, like, oh, I picked up the Ghostbusters manga.
Yeah,
like
yeah,
why
yeah.
not? That's a cool idea, and that's a cool different thing. People are screwing with it. I think we're getting there.
And I feel like now mainstream comics are hiring people like me and like, more women and people who grew up more into anime. Like
Yeah.
anime is like cool now, which is
Anime
crazy
is
to
cool
me.
now. Yeah, exactly.
So-
when they got Dan Reichert, we knew it was all over.
God, more anime and everything, please.
Irene, we come to the part in the show for required reading where you tell us what we'll be reading for the next month's show.
All right.
Which, by the way, Chris Anka is going to be on. It's so rare that I know the guest next time, but it's Chris Anka next time, and then the time after that, James from Isotope Comics here in San Francisco.
Nice. I
Yeah.
love James and
Yeah.
I love Chris and
Yeah.
I love Babs. We're all
Exactly.
friends.
I know, right? We've had a good lineup here.
So, I didn't bring. I brought like the collected first volume, so
Okay.
you don't have to read this whole thing. Although I would highly suggest it.
Okay.
Because there's a tonal shift. But this is Vagabond by Inoue Takehiko.
Okay.
He's most famous for making the show or series called Slam Dunk, which was about basketball, and Real, which is about wheelchair basketball, which will make you cry. It's really good. But Vagabond is about Japan's most famous swordsman in history, Miyamoto Musashi. And it is just Takehiko basically showing off his drawing skills because he did it with like a brush. But here, you want to take a look. So it follows his life story, how he got to where he is. And the beginning sort of starts off as his samurai
Oh my
adventures
God.
and the training and whatever. And the
art's amazing.
It's so beautiful. And then as he grows as a warrior, it becomes more philosophical. This is great for anyone who's invested in a kind of craft or sport or anything. He gets deep on like motivations and Zen philosophy, stuff like that. Like once you know everything, you forget
Jesus.
everything. It's really good.
I'm not going to ruin what I'm seeing, but they're going for it in some of the dialogue here. Holy shit.
Yeah.
These
and
bad
also
guys seem pretty bad.
it's worth looking at just for the art too.
So we're talking Vagabond Volume 1.
Yeah.
All right, I've seen that one over here on Amazon. Maybe you could get it from your local comic book store if you can. I'm just making sure I understand what's going on here. Okay, Vagabond Volume 1. Find out about this. All right, good pick for us. Thank you. I like it.
Yeah.
I like that people are shaking it up. We're reading different stuff.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Jean came on and did young adult.
Right.
Babs comes on. She's like, hey, here's this weird French manga. You're like, here we go. Straight up Japanese.
I would have brought Last Man if she hadn't done that.
Oh, good. I'm glad we took care of it then. The next part of the show is the update on Superman, which is this book I pitched in January that I
Okay.
want to write my first comic book. It was going to
Okay.
be about Superman, all this different stuff. Kevin,
Yeah.
I failed you.
God damn it.
Our deadline was to get the full script for issue 1 to Kevin at this recording of Comic Book
Welcome to
Club.
comics where no one's on time.
What happened, Greg? It's
No,
the system.
well, I mean, it is, Kevin. You know how busy we are, and that's the
I
biggest
know.
problem about it. And I've struggled recently with having quality time at home, if you will. You know what I mean? Of not having the work follow you, and like we're in convention season. I got a million excuses, and they're just that excuses.
Oh, I feel you.
I still have a dialogue complete script for issue 1. It's just that I haven't gone through and done panel 1. This happens, page 1.
I feel like comics writing is more difficult than it seems.
And I think that, and honestly, I think that's part of it for me, is that I did, I was like, I finally have an idea. And then I read Bendis's words for pictures, and I was like, I got this. And I wrote all the dialogue, but then sitting there and being like, wait, how do I put the dialogue into the right boxes? How do I do the right, and like, how do I describe, and what happened to me, I think, like up until last week, is that I got just I got to the, the edge of the diving board, and then was like, fuck, wait a second. How am I going to, like, how do I describe this? How do I do this? Blah, blah. And then 2 things have happened that have not invigorated me, because I never lost the passion for doing it, but given me a boost of confidence I did need. Number 1 was we just did a Game Over Greggy show. Kevin, why am I blanking on? Gibby was on. And Gibby's whole thing, he just wrote a whole bunch. He didn't just write. He wrote a bunch of books, and he was telling us about that journey. Yeah, Kevin's reading them right now.
Nice.
And listening to him. And we talked about it there, and it was me talking about the struggle of the fact that when I started talking about doing the comic, it was the problem that I started then also thinking about a million other ideas I wanted to do. So it went from, I'm doing this Superman comic idea, to here's a pitch document for this series, here's a pitch document for this, here's this, that, and the other. And then other people outside of our ecosystem started talking to me about, like, well, if you really want to do it, you should talk to this person. I'm talking to you about it. And it was like, oh, fuck, this is too much. And I was paralyzed by choice. And I feel like I'm working on Superman right now actively, and then this one little pitch I put out.
Do you have an artist?
No.
Not yet.
Because this is like totally a fan fiction, whatever. You know what I mean? No, I know. But it's also, I think that would be another thing to hold me up and screw me over. And like, I just need to go, you know what I mean? Especially because this is the one that I can't sell or do anything with. So just get it done and feel it. And also learn what the fuck I'm doing. Like, I don't know what I'm doing. You know what I mean? That's the biggest thing.
Yeah. I feel like it's probably good to learn the conventional comic script thing, but also I've worked with people who just write me pretty open scripts, like, hey, on this page this stuff should happen, and you can sequence it however you need to.
And that's the thing, they talk about that all the time, Marvel style or whatever, where it's super blank. And I don't want to go that loose, but what I found interesting was, and I feel like, and maybe I'm totally projecting too much, Jeff Loveness, the guy who wrote Help in that Beach Blanket one. When I went over and found out who he was and then complimented him and looked through some of his tweets, he complimented his artist on how well he did, and he put up his script. And his script was so much less detailed than some of the other scripts I had been looking at that it was like, all right, I can do this. I've been in my head of like, it's got to be like, look, this is a 3/4 of a page shot that's doing the, and his is like panel 1. Yeah. Superman looks concerned and says da panel 2, and I'm like, all right, that's much more in the vein of what I want to do. Like, I want mine to look, that minimalist style too. I want, not to mention when I do work with an artist, let alone the fact that, like, my dream for this is that I'm going to get to a point of writing comics and hopefully working on whatever projects or whatever, but I want to do I need to, keep the skills sharp and do just a couple pages of something and then tweet them out and then have our artists in our community send back what they think it would look like. And that's like something cool I want to do. And that's what I need to take this as, to not note it to death. So I'm there. I'm going to jump off the diving board. I will do it, Kevin.
That's
Issue
great,
1 for
though.
next time, Kev. I swear.
Okay,
and if it's not here, Kevin, you get to punch me as hard as you can in the stomach. Or a pizza party.
Ooh, pizza
But
party.
don't tell me which you're going to pick until you do it. You know what I mean? Because then I might. And how about this? If I do it, celebratory pizza party. All right, good. All right, thanks very much. Time for big questions. This is where you guys put your questions up on patreon.com/kindafunny. We read them here and answer your questions. Adam Matthew Inc. says this: besides Greg's Superman stories always talking about, what do both of you, what's a comic story that you would love to see done? Adam calls out Venom Squirrel Girl. That would be cool. To see Squirrel Girl taken over by the symbiote, but I can't imagine it hasn't happened. What you're an artist, so is that you could make anything happen anytime you want to happen?
It's true. I mean, I want Blue Beetle back. Or I said the only thing I would go back to DC for is if they asked me to do a Big Barda book. Oh. But they have Mr. Miracle out now, so I'm like,
But I mean, it's doing so well, and it's going to end,
good,
right? And then you can pick up the pieces and go from there.
What's up, DC?
Why Big Barda? What does Big Barda do for you?
I just like drawing big buff women.
Okay,
and
cool.
I love. My favorite part of superhero comics is when they're human. When they're like super.
Oh, so you must love Mr. Miracle.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So like them being married and like having a married life while being superheroes is so fascinating to me.
Yeah.
Like, how would you do that? You
Yeah.
know?
Yeah,
That's why I like the Batman stuff too.
Sure. Yeah.
So.
Yeah, and you love buff women or whatever, and you're talking about your erotic and all this stuff. That's the other thing about Mr. Miracle I haven't called out. Big Bart is so hot in that. You know what I mean? And it's like, and I don't mean it like in an objectification way. I mean of like, man,
like
she owns who she is and what she is in her relationship with Scott, and it's like, damn, that's fucking awesome.
So good.
Yeah, that's great.
What about you?
I mean, like, I'm so stupid and boring, I feel all the time, right? Like, I feel like I want Connor Kent back. I want Superboy back. You know what I mean? I miss him so much. I'd love to have that back, but I know that'll happen. Comics, I don't have to wait. Anything I could possibly pitch right now, it's gonna happen eventually. I'd love to write it. I'd love to work on that and do stuff like that. But what story arc do you want to see? I love that MJ's back. I just want to see. I'm enjoying Amazing Spider-Man right now, right? But I would love to see them really just tear it up and give you something different. You know what I mean? This is like, it's resetting it to basics.
Yeah.
I'm hoping so then they can go obscure with it again. But like Peter getting guilted by Aunt May, I'm like, who the fuck cares? You know what I mean? Like, how many times have we seen this? Also, just tell her you're fucking Spider-Man and be done with it. I really still
That's what I want to
to
see, is Spider-Man where he's just like, I'm Spider-Man.
Yeah, right. And after Civil War, we got that. You know what I mean? Or the world name is Spider-Man. All these comics exist. There's no new ideas. There's nothing we can do. Jericho wrote in and said, how do you feel about the crossovers? How do you feel about crossover story arcs? DC just announced a new crossover with Hanna-Barbera Saturday morning cartoon characters. It looks super silly, but stupidly funny as well. Do we need more of this? Why not?
It's fucking comics. Hell yeah.
Yeah. I think on the page when I saw this and Jabberjaw with Aquaman and stuff, and it's like, cool, this doesn't speak to me, but then I can't say that because when they did the Elmer Fudd Batman crossover, that book was awesome.
It was so good.
If you haven't read that, like, I picked that up totally, I was like, oh, this is gonna be dumb, and then you look through it and you're like, oh my god, they made Elmer Fudd real, and they made Bugs real, and like, what would that look like to have these kind of gangsters? And I was like, holy shit.
I didn't read it, but I saw some interesting stuff about Batman and Ninja Turtles crossover.
Yeah, no, and that was the other one too.
I feel like that makes sense. That crossover,
but I was like, all right, cool. How can they make this cool? And you read that and I was like, man, this is actually cool. So cool, they made a sequel immediately. Like, those books were dropping, like, I feel like a month after the thing ended. Yeah. And then Peter Fontana says, by the time this is recorded, I'm sure Greg will have given his thoughts on DC's new subscription service, DC Universe. I really haven't. We were at Comic-Con really when this information dropped, and we haven't gone there. But it might be nice to hear what Irene has to say about it too. Additionally, how do you feel about the new Titans show having such a dark tone? Why do you think the DC movies and TV shows continue to push this grimdark / emo vibe? Have you been paying attention to DC Universe?
I have.
What do you think of it?
Well, somewhat. This is for like, this includes like access to like Titans and stuff like that?
Yeah, so I'm pulling up their official pitch for you right now.
It's sort of like their Netflix model, right?
Exactly. This is it's not even a streaming service because you get so much different stuff from it. But the idea is that, you watch the exclusive original series along with, they're going to have a library of old movies and stuff.
Okay.
So you'll have the new Titans series. You're going to have Young Justice Season 3 along with like Batman Returns is on there, I believe. I don't think I'm talking on my butt on that one. But like not the CW shows because there's a licensing deal there, but the DC animated movies, the Christopher Reeve movies, Batman, the animated series, like
so
stuff like that.
They have a good chunk of stuff.
Yeah, and then you're going to get to read comics, but it's going to be a curated thing. So it's not like Marvel Unlimited. Gotcha. It's going to be very much like, here's what we're picking up and putting out here today, right? You know what I mean? And they describe it from must-read comics. From Action Comics #1 to Rebirth, DC Universe lets you add digital long box from curated list of modern and classic digital comics. So you assume there'll be a lot on there, but I hate that kind of shit. Just fucking do Marvel Unlimited and put it all out there.
Yeah.
Like, you'll get your own comic reader with it. It's going to be on every different app. There's going to be members-only merchandise where you can go buy, toys and stuff with that. Something with the community. It's interesting.
Maybe because I'm a casual Cape Comics reader, this just feels like convenience to me. I'm like, cool. I just give you like $7 and it's all in one place. Awesome.
Yeah, I'm not against it by any means.
Yeah.
I haven't pre-ordered. I did the thing of whipping out my phone, like, pre-orders are up, and it's like one of the things you can get is you can win a chance to see Aquaman on premiere, and I'm like, fuck, because what, it's $75 will get you right now 15 months of the service or whatever.
Okay.
And I was like, oh fuck, I got it. And then I was like, wait, no, why? Like, wait, like, you know what I mean? I have all my comics. I don't need to do that. Like, do I care? Or I don't watch the CW shows now, and I love Flash, and I just like fell out of it where I was just like, I don't have time. I don't have time to watch this. Like, am I gonna have time to go watch?
I stopped watching Flash the moment he's like, oh, I have abs now, and I was like, goodbye. I think like whether or not it succeeds or crashes and burns, like I'm just happy to see the big two trying different things.
Sure.
Just anything different. I mean, I have a whole spiel on, and I'm sure you have opinions on single issue market too, but like it's just not working. It's dying.
And I worry about by the time they admit that and get onto
exactly.
our level, is it just too late?
And like the thing is like, even though the artists and the creators and the editors have changed, the people in charge are still like the old guard, and so it's hard to change stuff like that.
Yeah, no, I think they have such DC, right? And I'm just speaking from convenience sake, has such a great idea with like Superman Earth 1, right? Of like, here's 124 pages bound that we didn't put out as singles, that is just dropping on a day, and it's like, like fuck, I would so much rather it be that, Jim Lee and Scott Snyder are teaming up to tell whatever story they want to tell. They have a story they want to tell. They're going to do 12 issues in quotes of it, but they're not going to put them out as issues. They're just going to work on it for a year, 6 months, whatever it is, and then bind it and put it out and bam, and drop. But I understand like that throwing that switch, right, means that like, cool, are we not putting out comics for multiple months while this like gets up and running? And then
it would be a hard change. I feel like you would have to stagger stuff, but I feel like it would also just be better for the writers and artists.
And I feel like there's got to be a smart way to do it where, okay, Batman, Superman, Spider-Man, the big guns, they can keep being monthly.
Right.
Amazing Spider-Man right now is twice a month, right? Like we can do something cool there and do an awesome, and that's why Otley's like, he's doing like the first 5 or 6 and then they're switching off, like they're swing shifting it. But cool. We're going to take the big guys and do that with it because we know they can do it and they can get people in shops and people want those stories and they're going to be great and they're going to be Bendis and they're going to be amazing. Like I see so many, I'm lucky enough that I'm on the DC and Marvel lists, right? So I just see all the books that drop and there's so many books that I look at and I'm just like, I don't know who this book's speaking to or who has the time to read it.
Right.
And then it's like, wouldn't this have been better if it was, hey, I have a great idea for Booster Gold. I have a great idea of I want to bring Ted Kord back and do that. Give me 6 issues to do that. Just put it out as one giant thing so people are there rather than it be me take a shot on it and be like, that's an interesting idea.
How many number ones do you see all the time?
Right.
I know.
And
then they never come back. Like,
exactly. Yeah. There's got to be a better way to fix it. I feel like if they don't start figuring it out.
Like women buy trades. Because women
That's
go to
sexist.
bookstores and not comic shops.
Yeah.
And so trades sell better with women. And it boggles my mind that they don't want money from the other demographic.
Yeah.
So
I think you for most of our most of our viewers and podcast listeners would fall into that camp too.
Yeah.
Because I mean, like I'm, lucky enough to have an audience and talk about comics all the time. But then it is the thing of like, I go into a comic shop and it's just intimidating to know where to start and what to do this, where it's so much easier for me to say, go pick up The Death and Return of Superman Batman, or whatever. You know what I mean? Go pick up Last Son, go pick up Red Son, whatever, and have them go. But like, to be like, well, Babs' work on Batgirl starts at 35, but there's a couple issues where she didn't do them, and then it switches over. It kind of looks like, it's a pain in the ass to do.
Is there like also like just the whole Diamond Code thing and Diamond in general? Is there like a digital way for people to subscribe to stuff or buy stuff?
Comicsology.
Comicsology.
Yeah, Comicsology is where they have the whole thing, hook, line, and sinker. You know what I mean? And like if you get the DC app or the Marvel app, you're still using Comicsology. You know what I mean? You're buying all stuff, except for Unlimited, which probably uses back end wise the same stuff. But outside of just buying them through the apps, it's all Comicsology. And I wish they would take all the money I give them and fix that fucking website.
Yes,
because it is a garbage
that's
pile.
The only reason
it is ugly
I don't
and hideous
use it.
and terrible and God. And I got over the fact that I can't buy comics in the app anymore thanks to fucking iTunes. Don't even get me started. We do a segment called What You Should Be Reading. This is where you, the viewer/listener, write in and tell us what. I went through, cherry picked a few good ones. Jericho suggests All New Wolverine Volume 6, Old Man Laura, 2018. The first 2 issues were just fillers, but very entertaining ones. The rest was just really, really cool. Love Gabby/Honey Badger suit. The team of female heroes that came together at the end was superb. I wanted more of that. I loved All New Wolverine. Of course, Tom Taylor wrote that one.
Okay.
Tom Taylor, another amazing writer named Tom. And yeah, if you haven't read all of All New Wolverine, do that. Like as Jericho points out, that's Volume 6, Old Woman Laura. That's the end of Tom's stuff. That's the end of All New Wolverine. So you can now read that in complete fashion. And I found her to be the first hero in a long time from the Marvel Universe where it was new to me and I totally connected with, to where I'm like, I'm going to buy the statue. I'm going to do this. And I mean, like,
Wait,
I'll
so
follow
it's
Tom
actually
Taylor.
Laura when she's like old?
Yeah, well, yeah. It's so like her all new Wolverine is her after picking up the mantle after
Right.
Wolvie dies,
Right.
and then the last thing is a time jump. Where
okay.
what would it be like for the old woman Laura story that
Gotcha.
day, and with her and Gabby and everybody? It's great.
I'm really into stories about badass old ladies. So.
You should definitely give that. Have you read any of it? Like from
No.
front to back, it's great. And I always talk about this as like one of the reasons I think like Tom Taylor gets it in a way so many people don't, is that I think it was at a Comic-Con panel, but it might have just been on Twitter. Somebody was like, hey, yeah, I love how you write this, and blah, blah, blah. And when X-23 does this, and he's like stopped. He's like, oh, her name's Laura Kinney. Like X-23 was like the name they gave her, and that's not who she is. And it was
Yeah.
like, once I had heard that and clicked, I was like, oh, wow. Like, that's why I like this more than I ever liked the X-23 stuff. Even though there's now a new book called X-23, #1, where I'm like, it's hard for me to go back on, but I picked it up. I haven't read it yet. I think there's a review coming up for it. Kayla wrote in with one I hadn't even heard of that sounds fascinating called She Could Fly, #1. I saw some recommendations on the Twitter, so I picked it up only reading the solicitation. Jesus. This issue stuck with me for days. So I'm just going to leave the solicitation and you can experience for yourself. Quote, in Chicago, an unknown woman appears flying at speeds of 120 miles per hour and heights reaching 2,000 feet. Then she suddenly dies in a fire explosion midair. No one knows who she was, how she flew, or why. Luna, a disturbed 15-year-old girl, becomes obsessed with learning everything about her while rumors and conspiracy theories roil. Will cracking the secret of the flying woman's inner life lead to the liberation from her own troubled mind, end quote.
That sounds incredible.
Also, this is a 4-issue series. Don't sleep on this one.
Damn.
You sold me 100%,
Yeah.
Kayla. I'm going to go down after this one and pick it up from the comic shop.
Me too.
You want to come down with me?
Yeah.
Do you want to sign stuff there? That's usually what we do. We usually spring writers on them
Sure.
and authors on there, or artists on them. Like, oh, cool. Here's a whole bunch of books.
Sure, why not?
Great. Oh, here you go. Mario wrote in and said he's reading X-23 #1. I was worried about the change in creative team and how that might impact the tone of the book, but this feels right in line with Taylor's previous run and continues to be a lot of fun. Highly recommended. So I will give that one a shot. And then Lucas said the same thing about X-23. I was a little bummed out that Tom Taylor wasn't writing Laura's main series anymore.
Oh,
but
Mariko's on it.
Mariko, you didn't know her?
We work together on Turtles.
Oh.
Yeah, we're friends.
Has done a great job at continuing her story. And of course, the real heroes, Gabby and Jonathan. Jonathan's the Wolverine they roll around with, like a literal little Wolverine. That's very cute. And that's Greg's Comic Book Club, issue #7. Everybody, your required reading. Hold on, I'm scrolling. Oh, it's right here, but I can't see the name from here. Vagabond. Thank you. I was like, I gotta find it. Is there? Irene, I hope you had fun. Did you have a good time?
I had so much fun.
Thank you for coming in. Don't be a stranger. People, of course, like I said, everyone I hang out with knows you and says we need to do stuff
Really?
together.
Do people actually know who I am?
100%.
I feel like a nobody.
Well, it's 100% the people like actually in real life who come do the shows and say that, and then also the audience said it. And like somebody on Twitter today was like, "Oh man, can she get a Game Over Greggy show too?" And I'm like, "Not today because we're busy, but yes, you are welcome on the Game Over Greggy show anytime."
What do you do on your game show?
You just fuck. Game Over Greggy is everything but games. We just come on and we just bullshit about whatever you want to talk about.
That sounds
Just
amazing.
podcast, have a beer or a coffee or whatever you want to do.
Cool.
Yeah. As we said, August 22nd, Legend of Korra Turf Wars Part 3, the final one. It's all there.
Yes.
If you want to see people banging, patreon.com/co. I am going to sign up for this one. I'll tell you right now. $5 level. Of course, thank you, ladies and gentlemen, for your patreon.com/kindafunny support. If by happenstance you ran into this issue on a free comic book day, please consider going over to patreon.com/kindafunny. Remember, $1 gets you access to this exclusive show we don't put up anywhere publicly, like it's a big deal. $15, you get all the benefits from way back in the day of, early access, watch stuff live, shows go here, win prizes and jazz like that. But you also get to ask questions, leave your reviews, and be part of the show. Thank you so much for all the people who came out to do that this time around. Everyone support Irene. I like her a lot.
Thanks for having me.
No problem. Thanks for coming in. Until next time, Excelsior.